Chapter 48. War does change. And so it was. We walked through the recesses of Site B, feeling the air of tension as we started our approach to the center of this facility. The vats filled with the incomplete potion, Kronos, Insidious. It was all directly ahead of us. I had no idea what was going on with the rest of the facility, how the changelings were faring, whether Cobalt was still safely locked up in that security room. I was trying to put it from my mind. Kronos had to be our focus. All of this led back to him. Easier said than done. I had already lost one friend. Another death might just mean my own. There were several more labs dotted around us behind closed doors, each one labeled for their specific role in the experiments that went on here. I could only imagine this place in its prime, just how many scientists would have worked here all at once. It must have felt like a stable down here, so many ponies all working towards the same goal. Too bad their goal led to all of this. Even before the end of the world, Twilight had seen that the Changeling Queen potion could lead to all sorts of trouble. I doubt she could have guessed, though, just how right her instincts were. We stopped as we reached a junction, or at least a point that should have been a junction. The corridors to the left and right of us were blocked behind some of those massive security doors. Unless Cobalt was about to hop in, I doubted they were opening anytime soon. "Anything we're missing?" Moonblossom asked, lightly kicking one of the security doors. It decidedly didn't budge. I checked my Pip-Buck's map. The chamber where we had fought the goddess was now far behind us, and I followed the base's diagram along to our current location. Looks like it just leads to more labs and some storage for the other potion ingredients, maybe? I suggested. Left and right both loop around the central chamber. I think there's also a couple of observation rooms I saw in the memory orb around here. So nothing of use, Xena mused, looking at the open corridor directly ahead of us. I joined her, our eyes settling on a metal staircase at its end. There were no other doors along the way, just a single, solitary opening in the floor that beckoned us to descend further down. "I assume the chamber is ahead of us," she asked. Directly. Down those stairs and through the next door. "Well, we waiting for hearths warming?" Moonblossom remarked. "Come on, we have a bird to kill." "I wish we could go around. Those observation posts would be good for a sniping position," Xena mused regretfully. "Going through the front doors seems unwise." "We have much of a choice?" Moon asked. Regrettably, no, we did not. I started moving forward, heading straight for the staircase as I kept an eye on my EFS, for any antsy surprises. Maybe Kronos thought the goddess actually dealt with us. Yeah, I doubt it too. We reached the staircase, heading directly down them and emerging into another straight metal tunnel, leading to a familiar industrial door at the very end. The back of my mind buzzed as I thought back on Chrysalis's own walk down here, this exact same corridor from her memory. If there was any doubt that this was the right place, they were now extinct. The red bars were also a dead giveaway. 2 barricades had been erected at the end of the corridor, each with a griffin standing guard alongside a third in power armor. They opened up the moment they saw us, and I winced back as several bolts of energy singed my barding before we all scrambled back into a space behind the staircase, using it for some semblance of cover. "I guess he held some of his goons back," Moonblossom shouted, taking a shot to her shoulder before she ducked in behind me. "Fuck! They're all firing laser shit! Are you both alright?" Xena asked, having deftly avoided the incoming fire.
Fine! This jacket is a literal lifesaver,
the Pegasus answered, patting out a small burning hole in her leather jacket.
Not sure it'll take many hits, though. That stuff is hot!
Maybe you should reinforce it. Works for me, I said, getting a thoughtful hum back from her. But luckily for us, I have this. This, of course, being the power armor melting Venomous. I went to peek around, though pulled back as a red beam struck right where my head was about to be. As good as leather was at protecting against the heat of energy projectiles, I did not fancy testing it under constant barrage. My chest was still smoldering from the first few shots. Xena, see if you can take out one of that asshole's guns, I said to my mare friend. When that happens, Moon, you go for those guys at the back. I'll finish the big fucker off. I got a nod from both, Moon exclaiming,
"Aye, Captain."
We're not getting stopped by these bastards now. Xena was the first to pop her head out during a lull in the gunfire, the crack of her sniper eliciting a surprised grunt from the power-armored Griffin. Perfect. I turned, entering into sat and preparing my shot. The Griffin in question was actually a lot closer than I had thought, apparently having been on a steady approach towards us. Feeling glad that we got this chance before he rounded the corner and mowed us down, I lined up one shot on his second, still functioning rifle, and the other two on his torso. I pulled the trigger as Moonblossom shot forwards, 3 balls of green energy striking the Griffin and causing him to shriek in pain. They did their job, immediately starting to eat away at his armor as his buddies in the back panicked at the streaking ball of Moonblossom aiming for their throats. One of the slavers went down after a round traveled through his skull, the other shots at Moonblossom going wide as the Pegasus landed on top of him and made quick work of the Griffin. The remaining Griffin's claws latched on to his melting chest armor, ripping it from his suit and letting it clatter to the ground. A few drops had reached his chest, but his quick actions meant that most of the acid hadn't. He charged forward with an enraged shout, propelling himself towards me with a massive caw. His weapons destroyed, he was now falling back on his claws. I ducked back behind the staircase as he came careening past. I attempted to raise Venomous, but he rounded on me and knocked the weapon aside before I could. I kept moving backwards, the Griffin taking a swipe and barely missing. With him strengthened by that armor, I did not want to get hit. Another crack from Xena's sniper sounded, a bullet pinging off the armor on the Griffin's wing. He turned to look, finding Moonblossom also charging right at him. But unlike the other slavers, he kept his cool and simply sidestepped while raising his wing. Moonblossom was instantly clotheslined, a spurt of blood coming from her muzzle as she hit the ground in a pained heap. Moon's knife came clattering from her maw as she landed, right at my hooves. I reached out and picked it up, running after the Griffin as he went for Xena. He used his wing to block another of her shots as he approached, but I lit my horn to grab onto his tail and slow him down. He saw me, kicking out with a hind leg. My breath left me as his armored paw met my chest, blowing all of the air from my lungs and sending me back to the ground. The knife again clattered away, my horn barely remaining lit without an active spell, as he turned back to finish me off. That's right. Just give me a shot, you bastard. I redirected my magic towards the knife, lunging it forwards over my shoulder and directly at the Griffin. As planned, the knife brushed past me and embedded itself right into the slaver's exposed skin, taking advantage of the hole Venomous had made in his armor. The Griffin gave a muffled gasp of pain, stumbling back as my magic yanked the knife back out of what I hoped had been his heart. And since the Griffin keeled over by a moment after, I think I hit my mark.
Ah, ow.
Moonblossom moaned as she trotted up beside me, holding her nose with a wing.
You know that since it was my knife, it's technically my kill, right?
I rolled my eyes, hoofing back her weapon. Xena trotted around the body and glared at it in disgust, while I made sure to double back and retrieve Venomous. I definitely didn't want to go up against whatever Kronos had in store without the changeling rifle. Without it, any asshole in power armor would be the end of us.
So, think that was all?
Moon then asked, glancing at the next door.
He's in there, right? He will have something in store. I cannot say what. Those we just faced were likely the first of his defense,
Xena said worriedly.
And with one way in.
Just stick together. We'll make it, I encouraged my friends. We toast the guy and get out. If we free in cities, then that's a changeling queen in our field.
Yeah, we should do that, first,
Moonblossom agreed.
Then we can go home and you two can go have all the falls. I wasn't aware you were invested in such things,
Xena deadpanned, looking a bit annoyed.
I just
blushed again. Goddesses, Moon was too good at teasing.
Come on, I'll be great as an ant.
Huh? Never thought of it that way. Never thought of kids that much. It's a little... Why were we talking about this again?
You know there'll be some kick-ass zonies. You intend to stick around that long?
Xena asked, eyebrow raised. Moon took on a more serious expression.
Well, I don't know. I guess it depends on what you all do after this. I still want to do some things, show ponies that I'm not that dumb-as-rocks raider anymore, but I like you guys. Wouldn't want to be away for long.
Maybe we should save the future talk until after the fight, I suggested. If we want to stick around in the hive, we have to rescue the changelings to ask first.
Scrapper has a point,
she conceded.
We can talk about this after we nab the bastard. We shall see,
Xena muttered, before her expression then softened.
But should that day come, I think you would make a good aunt as well.
Moonblossom blinked in surprise at the declaration. And then she turned away as her cheeks burned with a blush of her own.
Thanks.
I looked between the two, deciding the best course of action was to just smirk and shake my head. Come on, you two, I said to them, stepping past them towards the door. You girls ready for this?
I'm forever at your side, love,
Xena assured me.
What she said sans the romantic bit,
Moon agreed, regaining her composure.
Let's get him.
A warm rush flowed through me, almost like I was sharing in their strength. The strength of Cobalt, the strength of Ultrix. If Celestia and Luna had truly become goddesses, as many ponies believed, then I knew she was with them and watching us. Even if they hadn't, and it was all superstition, Ultrix was here. And she always would be. The door opened, swinging wide and revealing to us the chamber I'd previously seen through Chrysalis's eyes. It hadn't changed much beyond the rust and decay the rest of the facility suffered after 200 years, but the vats of green liquid continued to bubble away. The computer monitors around the room blinked and beeped, with processes I couldn't even begin to guess. I was no Cobalt after all. But there was one very big difference. No twilight sparkle sat by the central column to greet us. Instead, chained to it, a Shockton Cities watched us enter alongside her jailer. And he just stood there, in front of her, his expression completely neutral. I'd already raised Venomous, my friends joining me as the griffin before us seemed completely unfazed. He had been waiting for us.
You fools! Take my hive and leave!
Insidious commanded.
My life is unimportant!
Oh, but that is false, Kronos declared, not even looking back at the princess. You are the hive's center, and the changelings still require you. So they come, and we meet face to face once more. I glanced around the room for any other slavers. Neither my eyes nor my eyes forward sparkle finding any. It was just him, adorned in his combat armor and with his cybernetic implants. He stood between us and the princess. Smart. We couldn't shoot while he stood there. We might hit in cities. A lot's happened since you kicked my ass the last time, I snarled at the slaver. I got a melty gun. Yes, I've heard reports coming about the capabilities of your weapon, Kronos said. Should I be worried that he is not worried? Impressive design. One I'm sure we could make great use of.
If you insist on staying, just shoot him!
Insidious urged.
Do it!
But they risk hitting you. All I have to do is step aside, Kronos taunted the changeling. They won't do that. I glanced past him and at Insidious. If I could hit those chains. But perhaps this doesn't need to end with further violence, Kronos said coolly. I know some pony who is quite interested in making your acquaintance, scavenger. I barely held in a scoff. Who might that be? Some more of his goons called in from another room? Another alicorn we didn't know about? Something else he had in store? I'd prepared myself for whatever he wanted to throw at me. I wasn't expecting all the screens in the chamber to crackle and shift, all starting to view the same stallion. His coat was red, his mane jet black. He had a blue cape slung over his shoulder, with the faint numbers 101 on his collar. A piercing red eye, not unlike Kronos's, stared down at us with divine judgment. Redeye. I expect you know who I am. Redeye spoke as I gaped like a fish, his voice carrying a refined regality I hadn't really expected. But indeed, I am Lord Redeye, Guardian of Philadelphia, future ruler of Equestria itself. Redeye, Kronos' boss, sitting high and mighty in Philadelphia while his slaves toiled and died beneath his hooves. This was the fucker Kronos did everything for. The one responsible for all the shit we'd been going through.
And what do you want? To talk us to death?
Moonblossom remarked dismissively. You will be silent when Lord Redeye addresses you, Kronos snapped, his natural eye narrowing dangerously. Please, Kronos, be silent, Redeye gently scolded, as if to a child, Kronos immediately doing as told like a fucking puppy. Now, scavenger, or do you prefer scrap heap? I really don't care what you call me. Indeed. I suppose being headstrong is natural for all would-be heroes, he replied calmly. I will be blunt. You have been making a mess of our work in the north, and it must come to an end.
You expect pity from us?
Xena shouted, clearly insulted. No. What I expect is understanding, he retorted. My work, our work, has Equestria's clear interests in mind. We are building factories, schools, homes. What I do will restore this country to its former glory I am ending the apocalypse. On the backs of slaves? A necessary and unfortunate evil, Redeye claimed. But it is truly for the greater good. Our servants work for something greater than themselves. All those who serve our cause do. How does mind controlling an entire species and giving them to the goddess do any great good? This guy was either delusional and believed what he was saying or just playing for time. All of this, for what? We understand that the goddess cannot be allowed to have the changelings. She would cause unnecessary harm to all. Our alliance is all but at an end, beyond mere formalities. Under our guidance, the changelings would have been used to quell those who threaten Equestria's stability. Peace would reign.
You mean you would destroy all who oppose you and enslave them too? Xena mused. I do not see much difference between that abomination and you. You both seek to control, dominate, and kill.
We shall not be your tools, Insidious added in anger. Your filth is all but doomed to failure. The goddess seeks genocide. I do not, Redeye argued, ignoring the princess's rage. Under me, Equestria will soon heal, and such evils will become unneeded. You believe that? I asked him. You believe that an Equestria built on the dead bodies of thousands will be anything else? That it can miraculously become some kind of utopia? They don't have a choice. Like the changelings didn't. Like the alicorns don't. And that's the problem. You'd rather take the easy way out and strip away our free will rather than working with other ponies and build friendship and restore Equestria to the one Twilight Sparkle and her friends knew before the war. Friendship was a failed experiment. Twilight Sparkle could not save any pony in the end.
Equestria forgot friendship. All they knew was war by the end, Xena noted sadly. A mistake that killed many of our peoples. We kicked your asses, didn't we? Moonblossom bragged. And we were just 5 people. Guess having friends who give a shit is better than a faceless asshole number 5, huh?
I took a step forward, glaring at Redeye with all the conviction I could muster. The changelings have a chance to make peace with pony kind, to help us grow again. Your Equestria would just go right back to the old mistakes the old world made. The other way might just allow us to remember how things were when Princess Celestia ruled. It might just show ponies in time that we can all do so much if we just do better. Just like I did. Foolish naivety, Redeye dismissed without even hesitating. Friendship is sadly a fantasy. It is our nature to fight and die by the sword. Only a god watching over all can ensure peace. I sighed. A life like the alicorns, no freedom to choose for yourself. What kind of a life was that? One without friends, without someone to love. I honestly felt sorry for Redeye. He was a pony who would never know what it was like to have people you could trust with everything you are by your side. To find someone who just captured your heart in all the right ways, making every pain across every day worth it. I'd been like that once, but not anymore. I had friends. I had love, and I would die protecting them. I can see by the look in your eyes that you will not be swayed. Redeye mused in disappointment. There is still time to turn. All of you may yet hold ranks within my army. We both know we can't do that, I responded to him, I see. Very well. If that is the case, then I have more urgent matters to attend to, Redeye declared, looking directly at Kronos. You know what you must do. As you wish, Kronos confirmed as the screens blinked out, the Griffin keeping his eyes on us. You should have taken his offer. His generosity has its limits. If that's generosity, then it's extremely corrupted generosity. But this is where it must end, he announced, shifting in place. We all knew what was about to happen, and I prepared to make a very specific shot. With these changelings, well, they shall change the landscape of war forever. War does change. No, I denied, looking on at the deluded slave in disgust. Whatever you do, it won't change shit. War never changes. I fired. As expected, Kronos dodged to the side as a single bolt of changeling magic shot by. He flapped his wings, propelling himself through the air and onto a catwalk. That was unwise, he taunted. You might have hit the princess. That was the idea. What? He balked. There was a loud shattering sound as the chains around Incities burst open, the acid from the magic bolt having eaten away at them as quickly as I had hoped. The moment they did, Incities surged forward and violently pulled them away, likewise ripping the ring off of her horn and letting it light up a bright green. Kronos muttered. I smirked as Incities rounded on Kronos, her horn alight and ready to rain death upon the slaver. Fiend! You shall pay for your deeds! The changeling declared. An aura gathered around Kronos, picking him up and slamming him into a nearby wall. Incities snarled as the magic began to constrict, threatening to crush the helpless griffin. And yet, he smiled. There was another loud smash that startled me away from the sight. All our eyes shot upwards. Something came crashing out of one of the observation chambers above, falling down and onto the ground between Kronos and Incities. Incities cut her magic as she saw the figure, and I think my head also came close to stopping. I had wondered. I had thought that maybe something had happened, but what sat before us? Fucking hell. The figure was covered from head to hoof in black chitin. The wood was cracked and bulging along numerous large growths throughout her body, making her seem far larger than she otherwise might have. Her wings had grown, now joined by a second set, her maw filled with an increased number of fangs, her green dragon-like eyes bloodshot and devoid of any true intelligence or recognition. Not even for Chrysalis's own daughter. What? Incities whimpered, taking a step back. Mother? Our initial subject helped gain valuable data, but the results were far from desirable. Kronos explained, recomposing himself beside the mutated Queen Chrysalis. You see why we needed a replacement changeling queen to continue our research in evolving your drones. The last one is no longer of any real use in that regard. What have you done? Our procedures to extract the appropriate samples and test certain elements had adverse effects. Unpredictable, barely controllable, he explained. Your mother's mind was destroyed, though she did put up a valiant struggle when we first discovered her. Killed a lot of my talons. And now that feral ferocity is all that remains. Ours to control, showing the effectiveness of the chips we wished for all your kind. I looked at Chrysalis with barely restrained horror. Just what kinds of things had they done to her to turn her into this beast? This is what they were going to do to Insidies? All to figure out how to finish the potion?
Mother, please.
Insidies begged the other changeling, looking almost like a lost filly.
Princess?
Xena warned sympathetically, as Insidies had taken a step towards Chrysalis. Insidies looked lost, staring in both untold terror and longing at her mother. Fight, Kronos ordered, and Chrysalis struck.